Hello everyone. So for my first video, we're not actually going to be doing our reading or our analysis this time. I'm going to try and have the reading video up on Monday and the analysis video up on Wednesday. But I wanted to talk about something that I went and saw last night. Last night, March 9th, I went and saw the Sword Art Online movie Ordinal Scale in theaters, and I wanted to just talk about the experience because it was really meaningful to me. First, the first thing that I want to say about it is this was the first kind of like non-traditional movie experience that I went to in a theater, and what I mean by that is. So before the movie, I got there about half an hour early, which was really good because the theater was already packed by the time I got there. But somehow I still got a really great seat. I was just a couple seats off of center, and I was just like one row back from the row right at the front of the back set of seats. So in the theaters there's the seats way down that are too close to the screen that you have to kind of crane your neck up to see everything, and then there's that little aisle right where you come up after you come into the theater. There's that little aisle, and then there's the seats. I was just the second row after that aisle, so I really couldn't have gotten better seats. I probably would have sat in a seat very similar to where I was, if not the same seat, if I had been the first person in the theater. So even though the theater was packed, I still got an amazing seat, and it was great. But anyway, so I got there 30 minutes early, and normally when you get there that early, and the previews for movies don't usually start until way closer to when the movie actually rolls, and so a lot of times there's kind of stuff you don't really care about in there. And I just wanted to get there early, get a seat. I didn't really care about, I could sit there through some boring stuff for Sword Art Online, the movie. But it wasn't boring stuff. So there was they had, some, I guess you can call them like PowerPoint slides, honestly. I probably weren't made with PowerPoint, but, that kind of, just presentation slides where some of them had, recaps of things that happened previously in Sword Art Online, and some of them had some like background for the movie we were seeing, like the explanation of the Ogma device and that sort of thing. But the thing I wanted to talk about here was they also had this Sword Art Online pop quiz, they called it, which was 9 questions, just kind of testing your knowledge of Sword Art Online to see how much of a fan you were. And these questions were honestly super easy. Like if you've watched the series through even once, paying any attention at all, there's only one of them that might have been a problem, and that's Liz's real name. But it's not, since it was multiple choice, even that one wasn't hard. Because I remember her first name. It's just her last name that I wouldn't have gotten on my own. Anyway, so there's these questions that were really easy, but I actually liked that they were really easy because what happened was kind of beautiful. The whole theater, because the questions were so easy, and because on each question, one of them was kind of like a joke answer, we had a lot of fun together as fans, making fun of these joke answers. There are the two of them that were my favorite. So one of them asked what Asuna's weapon is, and the choices were rapier. Some second options I don't remember. I think it might have been a scimitar. I think that might have been the second option, and then the third one was a crossbow. And we just had a good laugh at that, and someone was like, "Oh, that's obviously it. Asuna used a crossbow. I just watched Sword Art Online, just recently, and she's totally sporting a crossbow." And it's just a wonderful image. Just the Flash just running around with a crossbow. It's it just brings a smile to my face. But then the other one that was great was the question was Klein in SAO. Klein was the leader of a guild known as, and it had a blank. And the B and C options were the serious ones in this one. B was Knights of the Blood, and C was Furin Kazan. But A was the real gem here. The first option was Laughing Coffin. And I just laughed so hard when that came up, and I was just like, in my head I was just thinking, talk about the greatest plot twist ever if, Klein is Poe. It'd be amazing and hilarious and terrifying, but also hilarious. But so in moments after I thought this, someone from a few rows back just shouts out, "It's A! Klein's the leader of Laughing Coffin, greatest plot twist ever." And just that sense of community, I've never had that in a movie before. That sense that we're all fans, that we're all there to share in an experience together of this movie. It was also the first movie I've ever been in where there was applause in the middle of the movie and cheers in the middle of the movie. And it was actually something I enjoyed and not something I was annoyed at. Partially that might be because it came to a point that was, it didn't cover any dialogue or anything, so I didn't miss anything. And also, it was subbed, so it wouldn't have been a super huge problem if it had been cutting off dialogue. But I think about it, and you think about how stereotypically you have the angry person shouting about being quiet in a movie theater. That wasn't, at least as far as I could tell, that wasn't anyone's reaction. We were all sharing this experience together and cheering when the heroic things were happening, and it was great. It was a different experience, but I liked it a lot. It was great being a part of that. I keep saying the word community, but that community. So I want to talk about, now that that's passed, I want to talk about the movie a bit. I don't know if it's going to come out dubbed in theaters. I really hope it does. Like I said, I really like the dub of the anime, so I'd love to see this movie and not have to be reading the whole time. So I could just focus more on what's going on in the movie. But some things I want to talk about, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers because so if you want to see it, you can still. I just want to talk about kind of my general impressions of it as a movie. First off, if you're one of the people who really loved the Aincrad arc of Sword Art Online but hated the fairy dance, the Alfheim arc, then you would love Ordinal Scale. Ordinal Scale is in the vein of Aincrad. It is not in the vein of Fairy Dance in terms of how the story plays out and what the focus is. Ordinal Scale focuses a lot on Kirito and Asuna's relationship, which is not to say that the rest of the series doesn't, because it does, but it focuses on it in a different way and in a different light, and I really liked it. Kirito and Asuna are one of my OTPs, and I just really like their story, and I think Ordinal Scale was a really good addition to that story as a bridge between Mother's Rosario and Alicization. So I really liked it from that perspective. The other thing that I absolutely loved was there was no fan service. I can't tell you how much I hate fan service in anime. And I admit it kind of bothers me, especially that there's a scene in Sword Art Online 2 that I want to stab whoever animated it, because how dare they do that to Asuna. But I digress. In Ordinal Scale, there is nothing like that, really. I mean, there's one minor throwaway part where Yui pops out of Leafa's cleavage, where her boobs jiggle oddly for how it was going. But even that, it's not really fan servicey. It's just kind of odd. Like, I'm still not sure what they were going for there. But other than that, totally devoid of fan service. And it's not like there weren't parts where they could have done it. I mean, there's a part where Asuna was in the bath, and all it showed was her face, and then anytime it wasn't looking at her face, it was focused on a bottle of shampoo off to the side of the tub, and she wasn't in the shot at all. And I just look at that and I'm like, if they wanted to do fan service, they totally could. It would have been really easy to do, but they didn't. And I really appreciated that. So, I mean, if fan service is a problem for you, then Ordinal Scale is a great movie. If you like the fan service, then sorry. Not sorry. The other thing that I will say in that vein is that there is a little bit of non-sexual, what I call non-sexual fan service, in that or fanboy service, maybe we can call it, because there are some moments, particularly towards the end. There's a Deus Ex Yui that doesn't really make sense in the established way that the virtual worlds work, but it's so awesome that I can't help it. I can't even really fault it, because it's just so awesome that I just watch it and I enjoy it because it's cool. It gets a rule of cool pass from me. Even though it's a Deus Ex Yui, it's not. I say Deus Ex Yui, but it's not. I feel like it's not that bad. It's kind of that bad, but it's not that bad. But even then, I still really enjoyed the scene in question, and just the movie in general. I think it did a really good job exploring the thing that Sword Art Online does really well, or one of the things anyway, is it does a really good job of looking at how gaming culture and different gaming devices could go terribly wrong. Of kind of taking the new technology in the real world and looking at how it could potentially not be super great. So I mean, with the original Sword Art Online, you were talking about, with the what I mean is with the Aincrad arc, you were talking about virtual reality, and virtual reality has been exploding recently. In Gun Gale, it was talking about the rise of competitive gaming, and that was a big part of it. In Ordinal Scale, we're talking about augmented reality. Actually, before the movie, there were a lot of people comparing Ordinal Scale to Pokemon Go, and honestly, I feel like it's not a. There's a lot of differences. Actually, I've never played Pokemon Go, so I don't technically know. But there are differences. But I feel like it's an apt. In talking about society, I feel like it's an apt description. And that's one of the things I like about about Sword Art Online and Ordinal Scale in particular, is that taking a lens to how we as society are using technology, and specifically gaming technology. And it's not condescending. It's not. I feel like Reki Kawahara must be a gamer. I don't. The way that he talks about gamers, the way he shows games, it has none of the patronization that we all too often see people take when they're talking about video games, and he really seems to understand players, and I like that, and I think Ordinal Scale does a good job of showing that. Other thoughts on the movie. Visually, it's great. It's not exactly, and I don't know if how much of this is watching on Netflix versus watching on an actual theater. The art style is slightly different. And there are definitely some areas where you can see that, especially in like the real world character design. There's just some of that might be that the characters are older now, and some of that might just be because they're doing a slightly different, ever so slightly different art style. I found it noticeable. So if you're just in love with the original art style and never want it changed, then you might have some problems with it. But honestly, it's a great art style. It's still definitely Sword Art Online art. Still definitely true to the Sword Art kind of aesthetic, if you will. But the visuals are they're stunning. The battles are great. If there was anything about the Aincrad arc of Sword Art Online that you liked, then I think that you will really appreciate Ordinal Scale. And I just want to close with my last thoughts on the movie about kind of the impact it had on me. I don't know how many out there know this. I don't know how many are out there to be talking to, but I don't talk about it a lot with people, but I do suffer from depression, and it's not an everyday kind of thing. It comes and goes, and I'll have months and months where I don't have any problems, but then I'll have a really bad episode or whatever. And this week has kind of been really bad depression wise. I've had really low days this week, and Lee does wonders for me in that regard. But as anyone who has depression knows, that doesn't really. Often you can't actually, no matter how much happiness you add in, it doesn't take away the depression, because depression isn't really a lack of happiness, really. And that can be part of it, but that's not really what it is at the core. So I've been feeling really down, and when I've been with physically with Lee, it's a lot better. But I've just been having a down week, and it happens every once in a while. And so Thursday, last week, last Friday especially, I just thought, it's less than a week until Ordinal Scale, and I was just super excited. But I got to Thursday, just a few hours before I was going to go, and I wanted to be excited, but I just couldn't be. I just, the feeling wasn't there, and it wouldn't come. I was still going to go because I love Sword Art Online, and I paid, frankly, way too much on the ticket to not go, which, by the way, worth every cent of it. But I'd spent, I was going to go, but I just couldn't be. I couldn't be enthusiastic about it. I couldn't be excited for it, and that was really bugging me. And then I got to the movie, and like I said, there was that sense of community of just fans coming together to enjoy something, and before I knew it, the depression was gone, and I was watching the movie, and it touched me. I didn't actually cry at all during it, but I came pretty close a couple times. And it just, I laughed, I felt with the characters, and just had this really emotional journey. And when I came out, ever since I came out, it's been better. I'm still on a downside of my depression swings. but I'm a lot higher up than I was before I saw the movie. And I don't know how much of that is just, natural progression of things, and how much of that is that I got to spend a lot more time with Lee today and yesterday afternoon than I have before, than I have for the rest of the week for various reasons. But I think part of it was the movie. Just that cinematic experience lifting me. And I can't put my finger on why necessarily, but it did. So Ordinal Scale will always hold a special place in my memory. And like I said, I hope it comes out in the dub, because I'll totally go see it again, even if it's the exact same price, because it was worth it. But that's my experience with Ordinal Scale. It lifted me. It took my mind off of what I was going through, and for those 2.5 hours, it really lifted me from my depression, and it was good. And so I would definitely recommend Ordinal Scale to anyone. If you haven't seen Sword Art Online at all, then you should probably at least watch the Aincrad arc before you watch Ordinal Scale. But with the exception of a few things that will kind of go over your head, that frankly wouldn't super be a problem anyway, you can really watch Ordinal Scale after just watching Aincrad. If Aincrad's all you've seen, then Ordinal Scale will still make sense to you. And there'll be a few things that you might miss, but it'll still be good. And so I'd really recommend Ordinal Scale to anyone. I don't know how available it will be to watch, but if you can find a copy of it and you can watch it, I would totally recommend it. And that's, I guess, all I have to say about that today. So Monday will hopefully, if I can get the editing done, we'll mark our first reading video, and we're going to be reading Sword Art Online. Surprise, surprise. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and it might have been a little rambly because I'm just kind of talking about my experience, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed it enough to want to come back and keep watching these videos, because I'm sure enjoying making them. So yeah, I hope you have a good day, and until next time, keep reading.